Hello and welcome to yet another movie review. This time around, we're going to review A Clockwork Orange. I'm joined by Brizer and Irish Fenian. I'll be bringing the lads on in a second. This film is from 1971 and it was directed by Stanley Kubrick. The novel is by Anthony Burgess, distributed by Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures. It stars Malcolm McDowell as Alex, Adrienne Corey as Mrs. Alex, Patrick McGee as, I don't know, is he the teacher or whatever, Warren Clark as Dim. There are so many characters, I'm not going to go through them all. But the main character is Alex. It's all about Alex. And I will bring in here Brizer. Brizer, when is the first time you watched this film? What was your first impression of it? And have you watched it since then?
Yeah, I watched it about 20 years ago, and back then I wasn't into what I'm doing now, so to speak. But it made an impact on me, I have to say, by watching it. A bit like when I watched 1984, and I think there's some similarities between the two actually. In this, we'll go into that later, I suppose. And then I watched it again about 4 years ago. With different eyes, I suppose. And again, fascinating film, and then I watched it then this morning, so it's kind of fresh in my mind again. Yeah, very dark, very disturbing kind of film, and not one you'd bring your girlfriend to or anything. This is a kind of it goes into a lot of different topics, particularly the way society is run, and like a kind of dystopian type society, and teenage kind of rebellion type of thing, and how the government kind of can get people and brainwash them and condition them to be good model citizens. And yeah, it's there's a lot in it. I'm sure we'll kind of go into the ins and outs of it. But yeah, very dark, very disturbing. A lot of violence in it, and I would put a disclaimer out there as well. If you're watching this film, don't be watching it with kids. It's definitely an adult movie. Like I say, there's graphic scenes of violence and sexual scenes as well. So, just consider that when you're watching it. I thought the acting was very good. And I thought the whole kind of, even though it goes on for over 2 hours, it kind of passed very quickly because there was lots of different things happening. But yeah, I like the Malcolm McDowell character, Alex. I think he plays it very well, and it kind of, as the story goes, where he's it's basically set in Britain. And it seems to be like a futuristic kind of place. We don't know what timeline it is in. And it looks like it was a very brutalist type of place, like you can see with the architecture and all of that. And it seemed to be quite chaotic. And you got these young feral youths running around the place causing chaos and beating people up and raping women and all the rest of it, and getting kicks out of it. And so, then as the movie goes, like Alex gets arrested and then he's brought into this institution where he is re-educated to be a good model citizen. But we'll go into the as the plot goes on, we'll go into those different those different scenes. But yeah, I enjoyed it, as I said, but again, it's dark and it's disturbing, but well worth a watch though. And I think pretty poignant to what's going on. It's a typical kind of Kubrick film, and where he explores a lot of these themes. I think Kubrick kind of, he seems to, when he does things, he doesn't do them in half measures. He lets it, he lets it all out. Plenty of violence and a lot of sexual scenes, which we saw that in Eyes Wide Shut, and we kind of see it here again. And when you're thinking that movie came out in 1971, it was controversial at the time. It got banned in a lot of places. I believe it was banned in Ireland in 1971, and they only unbanned it in 1999, I believe. So that took a long time. So, but it was around that time. It was coming at the end of the swinging 60s. Sexual liberation was on the rise, you know. So to see a film like that, you know, back in those days was kind of quite shocking, I think, to a lot of people. But that's the time that, you know, that it was in those times of the late 60s, early 70s when it was the whole again sexual liberation, and it was like, let's see what we can do here, and yeah, Kubrick pushed the boundaries on this one, and so yeah, looking forward to getting more into it. So I'll pass back.
Thanks for that, Brizer. Yeah, I'm surprised that this came out when it did. Like, I know Brizer said about the sexual revolution, but this film, even now, you know, in our progressive, liberal age, you know, do whatever you want, more or less, this film is still, you know, hair-raising to watch. So I'll bring in Irish Fenian. Irish Fenian, when is the first time you watched this film, and what were your first impressions?
How you doing, guys? First time I watched this would have been in the early 2000-ish, you know, say 2000 to 2002, 3 maybe. One of the lads brought it in on VHS, as we used to always do. We used to always, you know, any films, you know, that anyone came across or something, you know, we just, you know, anyone wants to take it, you know, at home, but make sure that you put it back, because there was a few sticky fingers back then. But I just remember like looking at it, and I remember a friend was showing it to me that he says, "Did you see this film? Do you know anything about it?" Because he was laughing at it. There was like, you know, the way they're wearing the masks when they're committing their crimes and that, and he was just laughing at that, you know, like, and I was like, you know, well, this must be a kind of a funny film, like, and it ended up we took it home on one of the Friday nights, and um, I know it's as Brizer said there, it's a very dark film and about rape and all that kind of way, but do you do kind of joke a bit, and I don't want to sound, but I'm talking about the singing in the rain bit. That was a part where like we were all drunk the night watching it, and we just well, some of the things that they were doing, we just thought, like, because we were only probably about their age as well, you know, like the way that they wanted to go off, have a good time, doing all that, you know what I mean? So that was the very first time I seen it, and like, but now watching it again though, and I'm thinking, Jesus, how dark was that, you know? Because I would have only been in my early 20s probably at the time watching it, but when I seen it again, and when I was looking at the date, I was saying, my God, you know, like, you know, when you think about things now and the way the world is, you're like, you know, how did this get, you know, kind of like at the time, you know, it'd be like a film that'd be kind of brought out now probably or something, you know. But yeah, looking at it now, very, very dark. Like all this senseless violence, you know, raping women, you know, and like that. I don't want to jump ahead, but I suppose yeah, like it was just so dark, and it was like looking at it, it was like, you know, yeah, there's a lot of symbolism as well now with this. Now I'm not the Mae West with the whole symbolism stuff now, but there's a lot of that in it. You know, there's a lot of like, you know, you like start off, and they're all, what's it, like, you can see the eye thing that he's wearing. Now I know that is that the all-seeing eye, you know, like there's loads of things like this in it now that, you know, someone else will be better educated with. But there's yeah, the after they're all drinking milk, they're all dressed in white, so that has to symbolize something. Then the floor is like the chessboard, you know, that symbolizes other things, and like these are things that I wouldn't have got years ago, you know, but now just thinking about them, you know. But the part though where they bump into this Irish chap, and he's an Irish alco, and he's just he's singing on the street and that, and he's like, can you spare some cutter from me brothers and all that? It's a stinking world and all, and your man Alex, who I thought was a very good actor to play your man, he goes, what's so stinking about it? And the Irish fella says, there's no law and order because it lets the young get on to the old, like you, he says. There's no word for an old man, he says, And then this could be Kubrick having a bit of a stab with the whole moon thing. And the Irish fella goes, men on the moon, men spinning around on the earth, and no attention's paid to law and order anymore. And then, like, he just beat the shit out of him, like, So, like, that's where we come up to the first crime. And then this seems to be like a thing that it's like, they just seem to have nights out doing this. But then they bump into their rivals, Billy Boys, and I think are they called the Druids or something? What they call them?
The Droogs. Yeah, the Droogs are
Yeah.
Alex's gang. Yeah.
Yeah, and he says that they were getting ready for a bit of the in and out with a girl, but Alex shows up with his fellow Droogs, and there's a scene where it nearly looks like, if you were to look at it again now, maybe you've seen it like when you look back at it, but when the Billy Boys or the Billy Boys, yeah, but when Billy Boy and his four Druids jump down, it looks, because they're wearing the four white outfits and there's all dust all over the ground, it nearly looks like four astronauts on the moon. And then I was thinking, because that old thing about Kubrick was going mad about, I've created the moon landing. I've created the best film ever, and I can't put my name to it. So I think if that was the case, he was very sore over that. But it just looks like four astronauts as they jump down, and then they start having a scrap, and then they end up beating them up, and then the run after you, because you can hear the police coming. But just as I said, I would love to know more about all the symbolism. But as I said, when I first seen it, I just thought, like, it was like, well, apart from all the rape stuff, I just thought it was kind of, and I was actually few drinks, few lads. We were out of the head, and we just thought it was a mad movie, especially when you're young and you're sorry, headphones. But especially when you're young and you're looking at these films. But as you get older and you start to see, like, ooh, no, wait, hold on a sec. I was looking at this in a totally different light, So I'll hand it over to you, Btwixt.
Thanks for that, Irish Fenian. I'll just give a quick bit of background. So, yeah, it was written by Anthony Burgess, and before we come on, I just wanted to check something out. Irish Fenian's already mentioned the scene wherein they beat up this homeless Irish guy. I think he's kind of lying supine, and he's looking up at the sky, and they're standing over him, and he's trying to have the banter with them. But Alex has decided, and Alex is really the catalyst. He's the one who always seems to initiate the violence, and he is the violent one. The others follow his lead. But after that, they go joyriding, and they end up at this, it looks like a mansion. And you can see that the road, it's like restricted access. They have to park the car way off and walk up to this house, and they manage to get in. And you've got a writer. You've got a writer in there. He's an elderly man, and he's got a wife. And the doorbell rings, and she goes to the door, and one of the Droogs is telling her that there's been an accident. They need to call. They need to make a phone call, please. And she's hesitant, but eventually she lets them in. And as soon as they get in, they start cutting up her clothes with a knife. They're wearing masks, and you've got the writer. He's at his desk. I think he's in the middle of writing, and he's got this big, massive bookshelf behind him, and they kick him or whatever. He ends up on the floor, and they knock over all the books. Now, Burgess, he said that when he was writing this, he was including himself in the novel, and seemingly he is the writer in his own novel. And according to Burgess, and some people say he was a pathological liar, but according to him, in real life, his first wife was actually raped by 4 men in her house. I think it was 4 Americans broke in while he was away serving his country. So I have it here. Burgess also had it in his head that he was going to die early, and he wanted to leave a nest egg for his wife. I don't know if that was his second wife at the time. So he started cranking out novels, one of which was A Clockwork Orange. He didn't think it would be as successful as it was, and he also didn't think he'd live for as long as he did. But anyway, here's a quote from him. "Yes, indeed, my first wife, who is now dead, was attacked during the war in London, in the blackout, by 4 American soldiers who were in fact deserters. It wasn't a sexual attack, it was an attack for robbery, but the result of this attack was that she had a miscarriage. She lost the child she was carrying at the time, and her health deteriorated, and I suppose her eventual death was initiated by this act of violence." Unquote. Now, Burgess was known to be, a heavy drinker, and his wife, seemingly after this event, she became a heavy drinker, if I'm not mistaken, if it's this first wife. Quote, "I think it's the job of the artist, especially the novelist, to take events like that from his own life or from the lives of those near to him and to purge them, to cathartize the pain, the anguish in a work of art. It's one of the jobs of art. I think it was D.H. Lawrence who said, 'We shed our sicknesses in works of art,'" unquote. So that was it. I thought that was interesting. And yeah, I'll continue now with some more details about it. The opening is interesting because it starts off with the orange. You've got the orange color. It opens up with the orange color, and people are talking about the Freemasons and orange lodges and this type of thing. But yeah, they're in I was going to say a cafe. It's a bar. It's called the Korova Milk Bar, and he says that it's where they sell Milk Plus, and he says Milk Plus Velicet or Syntemesk or Drenkrum, which is what we were drinking. So just very strange. And he says this would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra violence. So yeah, they're lads about town. Now, when I watched this. I initially watched this years ago. I don't think I ever watched it fully through. I tried a few times to watch it, and I just didn't find it interesting. I found it just off the wall, bizarre, and very dark. But I did watch it all the way through 2 days ago, and it is. You get. I thought these 4 guys were in their 20s. I thought they were in their mid-20s or something like that. But after they've been on their night of mischief, Alex gets home, and his mother has, this is another thing, her hair, I think she has blue hair. Is it blue hair she has first or pink hair? But I think it changes in different stages of the movie. It's obviously a wig, but it's like a really bright...
Btwixt, but if you notice in the whole movie, most of the women do have coloured hair.
Right.
So
right.
there has to be something to do, probably, with more symbolism, I'd say.
Yeah. There's the idea as well of color, changing colors being changes in emotions and all this type of thing. But it's also set in the future, and it was a worthwhile prediction because most women I won't say most women, but a large percentage of women now do have, a luminous pink hair, luminous blue hair, and all the rest of it. But yeah, he gets home, and then his mother says to him, like, he's in his room, he loves Beethoven, he's listening to Beethoven, he's got his bedroom looks really classy, but it looks like a kind of temple as well. And then his mother says to him something like, "You've got school in the morning." You've got school in the morning. And I was watching this saying, bloody hell, these absolute maniacs are just teenagers, they're just teenagers. So anyway, I'll pass it on to Brizer. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you notice as well, right, when they're talking, they speak in a type of a slang. And so when it kind of got me, like, what are they actually saying here? And it's just a kind of a slang that they have between themselves. But when I kind of looked into this, there's a lot of Russian type slang that's been used in this. And the name of this slang is called nadsat, which is a Russian suffix which roughly translates to teen, so like teenagers. So that kind of, it's like a teenage kind of slang, which they only understand. The adults don't really understand it, and it's kind of, it sounds weird, and it's kind of sounds a bit threatening, So I found a website, actually it's called Russia Beyond, where I found this, and they went through the terms in this film, and the term drug, which is what they call themselves, that's a Russian word which refers to a friend, So there was a quote in it, that was me. So Alex is narrating this film, by the way, so we're seeing it from his point of view. He says, that was me, that is Alex, and my three droogs, that is Pete, Georgie, and Dim. So, it's not friends or pals or buddies, it's droogs. And that's used quite a lot throughout this film. And then the milk bar where they go to, a milk bar is kind of, these were kind of big in Britain back in the late 60s. They were kind of like the American version of a diner, where you can go and get milkshakes and coffee and stuff like that. And there was no booze or anything like that. It was, burgers and stuff like that, But obviously this was a kind of a weird place that they found. And as you said, there was a bit of symbolism in that and it was called, that you see this term moloko in the background. And again, that's another Russian word meaning milk. And I just thought it was popped out at me while watching it, when you see them sitting in the milk bar at the beginning, and the decor in the back is moloko adrenochrome. That sounds a lot like adrenochrome, doesn't it? So I just found that interesting how that one popped out at me. And as I said, you drunk the old, obviously there was something in this milk, okay? It wasn't just ordinary milk from the cow, right? It was milk with something in it. And so these guys obviously got quite high on this, and they were prone to doing violent acts afterwards. And the Korova milk bar, Korova also is another word which sounds very much like kravi, which is meaning blood. So milk and blood, they're kind of related, aren't they, a bit? So so there's moloko, and then what's the next one? They use the term horror show, but that sounds like a Russian word called korosho, which means good. So the horror show is good, okay? They talk about the term Gulliver. I say, I got hit in my Gulliver. They mean that what means that's a Russian word for. The Russian word for Gulliver is golova, which means head. And then there's vek and chelovek, which means a man or a person. So they kick the old vek. So you'd be wondering what they're actually talking about in this film. So I made it a point of looking up and seeing what these words meant. And then there's one like on my Oddy Nocky, which means on my own, or I'm alone, or I'm lonely. So I was there on my Oddy Nocky. It kind of sounds a bit like Cockney rhyming slang as well. I think there's a little bit of that in it. And then there's the word Dvochka, which means a girl or little girl. And they talk about the Dvochkas, you know, when they're, let's go out and rape some Dvochkas. And there's interreservated, which we think would mean interesting, but actually that's what it means. There is a Russian word called interreservat, which is mean to interest. So that's where a lot of it all came from, these Russian type words. Now, you know, this book was written in 1962, which is the height of the Cold War. So, and I think Burgess had a lot of experience. He was looking a lot into that whole Cold War thing and Russian culture at that time and communism. So I think that's why he brought that in there. As I said, you know, they go to the milk bar and they obviously drink this intoxicating milk, which gets them very high, and they want to go out and commit violence, and they beat up this poor old Irish guy who's a homeless guy on the street, who sang a very good rendition, I have to say, of Molly Malone. You know, I'd say he did a good version of that. And but anyway, as I said, he was cooing out about the young people who don't care about the old people, and of course they beat him up on the street and really beat the crap out of the guy. And so then they go on their little jaunt around the countryside, and driving on the wrong side of the road, driving cars off the road, and they eventually come to this house, and outside is it's an interesting sign outside the house. It just says "Home," and it's lit up. And they knock on the door, and there's this guy and his wife. The guy who owns the house, obviously a writer. You can see him typing away, and his wife is just sitting on the couch, whatever. And she says, "Who would that be at this time of night?" And so the wife goes, and she doesn't answer the door. She says, "Who is it?" And she says, "Oh, there's a terrible accident on the road. Can we use your phone?" He says, "Well, we don't really allow people in at this time of night. It's dangerous out there." And he says, "Oh yeah, okay, but it's an emergency. It's emergency. My friend is dying on the road, you know." So they let them in, and of course, the four lads get in and beat the crap out of the husband and wife, and they rape the wife in front of the husband. And of course, you know, they got a great kick out of that. And so you can see, like, that they obviously get off on this. And you know, when Alex comes back home that night and he gets into bed, and you know, he's puts on his Beethoven music, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and he obviously he kind of gets off on this. He kind of goes into another world, listening to this music, and he's in his own little world in many ways. And as you said, I was kind of surprised as well to hear that he was supposed to be going to school the next morning, but he hasn't been in school for a week. So again, it just summed up what the kind of society they were living in. It was, yes, there was school, and yes, there was some semblance of some kind of society, but it was falling apart, and the parents didn't really care too much whether, you know, Alex went to school or not. He just said, "Oh, I got a pain in my Gulliver and I can't get out of bed," and whatever. So she just leaves him be. And Alex also has a snake that he keeps in the house as well, in his drawer. And so yeah, he goes off into his own little world. And then at that time, you know, the next morning, mother or whatever and the father go off to work. And the father as well, he comes across as a very kind of submissive type of guy who doesn't, you know, doesn't really care too much. And he's, you know, I think he knows that his son is up to no good, but doesn't do anything about it. The mother seems to be maybe a little bit concerned, but she meets a a guy who it looks like Alex had problems in the past, right? So I think he was in probably a Borstal or somewhere like that. So he had it looks like a parole officer who comes around and says, "Oh, we've known what's happened. There's been in the reports in the paper, like you know, that something people have been beaten up, and I got a feeling it was you, you know." And so they decided, like, you better behave yourself, or else, you know, we might have to do something about that. So there was a little kind of an arrangement between Alex and this parole officer, which was it was a very strange relationship, that one, you know. And I still trying to figure out what that was all about. But so then it moves on to the next day. Then the other guys are thinking, you know, they're kind of getting fed up with just beating people up. They want to get some money and get some gold and silver and lots, you know, goodies. And they hear about a house, which is a kind of a nature, not a health farm, where this woman runs it, and she's got loads of cats, and she's going to be all on her own. And let's break in there and steal everything, and we can beat her up as well. So they make a plan to go there, and again, she won't let them in though. But they eventually, Alex breaks in, and again, the sexual symbolism there again. You know, they found this big phallic symbol on the side drawer, and Alex was playing with it. You know, kind of it was hopping up and down, and it's kind of a funny kind of scene in it. And you say, "Put that down, put that down." You know, that's a precious ornament. And anyway, he gets that, and he basically kicks her over the head with it, and kind of pretty much breaks her skull and kills her. And and before that, before Alex breaks in, she got on the phone to the police, thinking that there was a man who was came around looking for help. You know, it was the same act as the last time, but the writer and his wife saying that there was an accident outside, and a friend was on the ground and he was bleeding. They need to get to a doctor and a hospital, and can they use the phone? And she was saying, "Well, there's no phone," and but she does have a phone. So while Alex goes off, she gets on the phone, rings the cops, says it's very strange because it was the same thing that he said I read it in the papers, that what he did last night to the other couple. So I thought I'd ring you. So anyway, Alex does the deed there anyway, and you can hear the sirens in the background. And he decides to get out, and as he goes out the front door, his buddies are waiting for him, and one of them, I think, is Dim, like smashes a bottle over his head, and kind of doesn't knock him unconscious, but he's saying, "Oh, I'm blind," or something like that. You know, I think it hit him over the nose, and they run off because they're kind of a bit pissed off at him. I think they did have an argument before that as well, didn't they? I think they had an argument. And that was Alex kind of, you know, putting his foot down, saying, "I'm the leader of the gang here, and just you remember that." But they kind of get their own back on him, and they hit him over the head, and they leave him for the cops, and he gets arrested. So yeah, I'll pass it back then on that point. So
yeah, I think they wanted a bit more equality in the group, and Alex wasn't having any of it, and he had to get very violent with them. He had a knife. I think he cut one of the guy's hands. He threw them into a lake or a river or something, and then he pretended to help one of them up. And when the guy put his hand up to be pulled out, Alex cut his hand with the knife. So he won the battle, but he didn't win the war, because the three other guys decided that they didn't want to really hang around with Alex anymore, and you know, they wanted to get rid of him. So yeah, they left him for the cops. Now, I just want to go back very quickly to that scene with the parole officer. What is he called? He's something like corrective. Oh, I don't know what is it. Corrective something. But yeah, he's like a parole officer, and it's so strange because Alex, he comes into his room and you have the guy. His name is P.R. Deltoid, and he's sitting on Alex's bed, or sorry, he's sitting on the bed in Alex's parents' room. Now, we will get into this later. The dynamics of this family is very strange. Alex's father seems like a total cook. The mother, she's in desperate need of a man, really. And we get into this later. But anyway, this guy, Deltoid, is on the bed. And when he sees Alex, he says, "Ah, Alex boy, awake at last. Yes, I met your mother on the way to work. Yes, she gave me the key. She said something about a pain somewhere. Hence, not at school. Yes." It's like the end of every sentence, he has this yes. And this scene is weird, and it's homoerotic, whatever. He gets Alex to sit on the bed with him, and I think Alex is just in his boxers. He's after being in the shower or something. And he's sitting right beside him, and Deltoid puts his arm around him, and as they're talking, he kind of lies back on the bed, and he pulls Alex with him. So the two of them are lying on the bed together, and he's like tickling him or something, telling him to get his act in order. It's very gay. It's very gay. But anyway, the woman that Alex kills is a cat lady as well, and she must have about 17 cats. As Brizer said, there's a massive penis and balls, a ceramic thing on the sort of sculpture. It's like on a mantelpiece or something, but it's massive. And the camera zooms in on it. And every time Alex touches it, it wobbles back and forth. And then you can see the cat lady in the background. And she's kind of half obscured by this giant penis and balls, which Alex then uses to kill her. Obviously, I don't have to get into the symbolism there that, he killed her with whatever, male genitalia. So, I'll bring in Irish Fenian. Is there anything you want to add, or would you prefer to go on to the scenes where Alex is in prison?
Excuse me. Well, I suppose going back to the when he rapes the first woman, if you notice, she's all dressed in red, and I suppose if it's written in the future, like she was sitting in some weird chair, but like he blags his way in, with an accent and that, and like he starts that whole singing in the rain, and he goes, "What a glorious day, bump bump," and then he's kicking your man, and we later on find out that this fella ends up in a wheelchair because of it, and his wife, like he was saying that, oh, the police said that she died from, and I found this very interesting. She died from a flu. It was something to do with flu epidemic, and I was thinking, yeah, past few years, yeah, okay.
Sorry, Irish Fenian. When I was reading up about Anthony Burgess, the writer of A Clockwork Orange, I think his mother died from the Spanish flu after he was born. So there must be some connection with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I was just wondering, because there's a few films lately that I've been watching, and it's all about some type of like virus or flu or something like that. But maybe the whole and you don't actually see them raping or anything, like, so maybe that whole singing in the rain is just was a joke or something like that. I don't know. But they don't actually go home. First of all, they actually go back to the milk bar, and looking at it again now. If this was made, this is like this Hollywood stuff. It'd be like if I walked into one of the Rothschild's houses or something, because you have these mannequins that are like tables, these naked mannequins and this, and they have the milk over it and all this kind of stuff. So and then when they're getting their so-called ultra milk, I'm not sure, what's in it. But like there's this mannequin breast, shall we say? I could use another word, but this breast, and it's he then I think does he put in money, and then he just pulls the yolk or whatever and starts pouring himself milk and that. And I just found like the whole scene, like there has to be loads of stuff in it. But anyway, yeah, back to like there was a girl, yeah, she starts singing some kind of opera tune, and Alex actually likes this, and he's like giving a toast to her, like saying, "Yeah, continue." Like he was saying that, like, the others won't know what she's singing about, but I do, and I like it, and this kind of way. But one of his with Druids or whatever, or Druids, he makes a kind of I think it's them. He makes a childish noise, and then Alex gives him such a wacky does. And then, like, he starts saying that, oh, things have to change, like, I'm not your brother. And then Alex just turns around, and I'll scrap anytime you say, you can have it, but the other fella backs down. And then Alex goes home, and he opens a drawer, and he throws a big bundle of money in it. And he probably is keeping all this stuff from his mates, because, like, he looks like he has jewelry, he's money, he's got, Jesus, so much in this drawer. Like, I mean, if the guards or the police raided his gaff, he'd be up on all this stolen merch. Like, but and then he starts. He loves Ludwig van what's the Beethoven or whatever, yeah, and the Ninth Symphony. So he starts putting that on, and he's listening to that. And as you said, yeah, that chap is he like a probation officer, because Alex just gets up the next morning, and he's just he's in a pair of briefs, I could think, not even in boxers, but like the way your man is just sitting on the bed, and Alex goes into the other room, but then he just realizes that, wait, hold on, there's someone sitting on the bed there. So he goes back in, and the way your man is like talking to him and that, but and then he brings him down, and you have that whole homosexual thing, and then he gives him a big slap on the balls. Like, it was just, I just, that was just what's going on here. But then Alex goes to, it's a record shop. God, something that in my past time used to do all the time, every week, sometimes twice a week. But he picks up these two boards in the record shop, and I don't know. There's more. Could be more symbolism. There's spinning black and white waves above. I don't know. But he brings the two boards back, and ends up shagging them. Right, fair enough. But then his mates, then the following, I don't know whether it's later on that morning, or could be the following day, but his mates come around the same, and they're not happy at all. We've got a new way, says one of them, and I think he's sitting in a wheelchair or something. Alex, he's just like, there's something just at the end of the stairs. But then you see them walking along it's a kind of a canal then, and Alex then reprimands a couple of them. He's carrying this big cane, he is, and he just gives he gives one of them a big whack. He falls in the water, and then starts smashing the other fella. And then I think it's Dim, it is, that once, he's thinks that he's helping him out of the water, and then Alex takes out a knife and he cuts him then with it. So he's trying to do a bit of law and order that. But it doesn't actually work out, because as you are saying, when they do the next rape, which is more or less the same thing as before, and yeah, there's a big, yeah, that ornament. Yes, the big phallic, yeah, ornament, yeah. He's like, yeah, playing with it, and that. But yeah, one was very smart out calling the police, to send a car around just in anyway, just to have a look, because I remember those times where, like, you wouldn't answer the door late at night, you'd still be very apprehensive now if someone called at your door late at night. You'd be like, hold on, wait a minute here now. But yeah, I think it's the I'm not, there's like three of them, but I'd say your man Dim is probably that's what he's called, Dim. He's probably not the smartest one, but I think it's him that hits him in the head with the milk bottle. When milk used to come in bottles years ago, but then the boys used to be always getting in through the top of them and that. So that the milkman used to hate that, like. But yeah, then that's when they run off, and the police then end up coming then, and they take him away. And then he ends up getting nicked, and he starts taking a hiding from the cops. That parole officer, I think, if he is the parole officer, comes in, and the coppers even say, "Here, we'll hold him down. Do you want to give him a hiding as well?" And he does something even more dirty. He spits on his face. You know, I hate someone that fucking does that, like that spits on you. You know, I'd rather a box than a spit. You know what I mean? Like, it's disgusting, it is. But that's what he does, and he's then brought off to the prison. I suppose we could go into his whole the MK Ultra kind of stuff coming in now. He's brought in to the prison. You know, he's asked, you know, what have you got in your pockets? I found it funny the way the line was kind of more back. You know, if you're going to lean over to put your things on the table, because at first he like I think it's a lighter or something he takes out and he throws, and the copper's like, put that down, you know, properly, and he has to lean over real far and then just put it down gently, and he has to do that with all his bloody items he does, and then he's over and, you know, has to strip down and that. And one thing that would never be asked of you today, anywhere, he was asked, "Are you a homosexual?" You know, to which he said, "Obviously no." But that's what happened there. But he just says, "No, sir." And then what's where do we hear? Yeah, he takes it up because he thinks that because he's been sent for 14 years, he starts wanting to be playing good now. He does. So he takes up a kind of a position with the church, you know, because he says that he's Church of England. He does, and there's one scene in it where they're having mass, and because he's saying that, I'm in here with, you know, murderers and, you know, this scumbags and all that. There's two people, and they are gay, and I had to laugh at the copper, the faces that he was making, but like, because one of them was blowing kisses at him. And I was just saying, God, you know what I mean? Because your man was a real, like, you know, yes sir, no sir, you know, one of these authoritarian kind of chaps. But this he's in the I think it's the library one day, and he brings it up with the priest about this new treatment that he's been hearing about. And the priest is saying, how did you hear about that? Or, you know, and he says, "Oh, well, you know, people to be talking, you know, two prison guards could be talking, and you see a paper there, and, you know, things get out," he says, you know. And he's, you know, they're kind of at first they're saying, "Oh, well, it's only new and we don't know anything about this." But then one day, I think was he the Minister for Interior, I think, and he comes in, and he's looking for someone to choose for this MK Ultra experiment. And he's like saying all these criminals, you know, they're nothing but dirt, and the, you know, kind of should be locked up forever, and, you know, or kill them or something like. And then like he just turns around and he goes, "You're dead right, sir." And then your man just turns around and he's like, "Who said that?" You know. And he said, "I did, sir." And without going anywhere else, he says, "Right, you'll do, yeah. You know, we're going to have you." And then he's brought in for the treatment. And now another thing, I don't know, there was a red and black phone in this chap's office, the new place where he's at, and I was wondering about that as well, like why red and black. But it's called the Ludovico treatment or whatever, which is funny because Ludwig, you know, the song that he's into, or the symphony, sorry. But then he goes for this. Now he thinks that he's going to ace it, like it's just going to be something stupid, or just play stupid, you know, pretend that, you know, yeah, oh, you know, I'm cured and that kind of way. But he's strapped down, and he has at first he injected. There's a serum that they inject in. Now there's 114 on it. Whether that means anything, I don't know. But that's jabbed into him, and then he's stuck in this kind of straitjacket, and then that's when they put the thing in his eyes so he can't shut them, and then they keep watering them, and then they show him all these. It looks like the stuff that he used to do, like the same clothes, raping a woman, beating someone to death, and all that. But then I just have to mention it, sorry, but then we start to see, this is obviously the Jewish propaganda coming in. We obviously see films of Hitler then, and the National Socialists, and he's what he can't stand about that. It's not actually anything to do with Hitler or anything. It's the fact that they're playing his favorite symphony over it, and he's like, "Please stop, stop!" He didn't do anything wrong. He just played music. Stop. It's a sin. He never hurt anyone. He just wrote music. And that's what, and he says that he's going to be sick and, stop the demonstration. But they keep on saying, no, look, it's for your own good and that. And, that's the start of when he starts getting this MK Ultra. I'll throw it over to you, Btwixt.
Yeah, thanks for that, Irish Fenian. That brings us right up, which is great. Otherwise, we'd be here for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, you mentioned the.
Is that a bit of a dig?
No, it's not. It's not a dig at all. It's a compliment. Believe me, it's a compliment.
I'm only joking.
It's a compliment, my droog. It's a compliment, right? So, yeah, the stuff they show him, as Irish Fenian said, it's more or less the stuff he got up to before he was sent to prison. And they do show clips of Nazi Germany, which actually looks so much better than the stuff we see these days. It looks so much better. It looks so much cleaner, so much nicer. Or sorry, so much a lot nicer. So he does. He also mentions concentration camps and all that. Now, I'm not sure at this time. So let's say this was filmed in 1970, let's say the script, late 60s, maybe early 1970, the script, was the Holocaust a big thing at that time? I don't think it was. I think a lot of books back then, they just said that, there were concentration camps and they were filled with gypsies and foreigners and homosexuals and Jews, something like that. So I don't think the whole that whole narrative had come into play at that stage, but obviously they were starting to prepare. Go ahead, Brizer. Go ahead.
Narrative kind of came in the mid 70s,
right?
And this TV show came out called Holocaust. It was 75, 76, I think. I remember even watching it and being horrified by what I saw. The poor old Jews,
Right.
And that had a huge effect on it. And I think that's when the whole Holocaust narrative kicked in.
Right. Yeah, it's something like. Do you remember? We won't get too sidetracked here, but there was a program that came out called Roots. I think it was produced by the Jews, but it was about slavery, and I remember watching that as a kid. Everyone. I think they showed it every few years. They would show it on Irish TV, Roots, and it was a series about all the bad things that happened to the Africans when they were sent over to America. And it would make you feel terrible, absolutely terrible. But Fionnuala says Kunta Kinte. Yeah, I remember there's a character called Chicken George as well. Propaganda. It's very, 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 very effective, especially when you control the media. So, just to get back, there are a few things I wanted to discuss about parts of the film. At the start of the film, those droogs, they're wearing white, as Irish Fenian said, but you don't, the clothes don't seem to get splattered with blood. They seem to remain immaculate. Now, maybe there are some parts where they do become stained, but from when I was watching it the other night, I noticed, they still look very white. So, yeah, that was that. And I just want to quote part of the film. This is when Alex picks up those two women and he brings them back to his for a threesome. And he sees them. I think they're, as Irish Fenian said, it's a record shop. And Alex, he says, "Enjoying it then, my darlings." A bit cold and pointless, isn't it, my lovely? What's happened to yours, my little sister? And one of the girls called Marty, she giggles and she says, who you getting, bratty? Goggly Google? Johnny, was it Johnny Chavago, the Heaven 17? And Alex says, what you got back home, little sister, to play your fuzzy warbles on? I bet you got little save pitiful portable picnic players. Come with uncle and hear all proper. Hear angel trumpets and devil trombones. You are invited. And I just thought that was very good writing. So I will bring it on to Brizer now. Brizer, we're at the scene or scenes wherein Alex is having his brain remapped. He's going to be a brand new Alex. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Before I go into that, just going back to the point after they beat up the old Irish guy, then they come across Billy Boy and his droogs who are trying to rape this girl, and ensue having a fight. But did you notice about Billy Boy and his mates? They're all dressed in evil Nazi uniforms. Did you notice that one, guys? I noticed that one.
I did not. I did not.
Yes, go look at it again.
I looked at it, and they were dressed in kind of army kind of style.
Army, yeah, they were, and evil SS officers or something, and it was like, again, it was putting this image that the other guys, Alex and these guys, were all dressed in white, the guardian angels coming in to save this poor girl. But of course, they would have raped her if they had the chance, So I just thought that was interesting. And then bringing it to the point where Alex was in prison and they were basically torturing him, and putting up the images of the National Socialists and Hitler. So there's Kubrick putting that in there just for good measure, And also in the record shop, I noticed this as well. Just popped out at me. He was walking around, and there was, in the record shelf. Did you see 2001 in there? It looked like it was an album cover called 2001. So, was 2001 made after this or before it? I don't know if someone could correct me on that one, but he obviously had an idea.
I think it was before it.
Yeah.
I'll check, but I think it was before. I think 2001 was late 60s, I think.
Could have been, yeah. So it's just interesting that he just popped that one in there too. But anyway, yeah, going back, he's now in the prison, and I also, his prisoner number is 655321, which is kind of interesting, like 654321. No, 655321. Again, is there some kind of symbolic thing behind that? I don't know, but I just thought that was a strange number to give somebody. But 655321, and so you can see Alex he's in the prison for a while. As I say, he's a lot of the prisoners are eyeing him up, thinking, yeah, we'll have a go at him. We'll have a look at this guy at some point, Now we don't, nothing happens there. We don't see anything like that. But Alex is, he's been a good guy. He gets in with the priest. He's studying the Bible, and he wants to be a good man again. And he's kind of, it looks like he's pretending to do this. It's not look like he's kind of like he really wants to change. He's just seen what he can get away with here. He's a clever guy, right? He's not dumb, and so he learns all the Bible passages, and he's impressing the priest and everything. And then he hears about that there's this new therapy out there called the Btwixt therapy. I can't remember now. Which again sounds Russian, doesn't it? Is this what
Sorry, bro. I think it was the Ludovic.
The Ludovic. Yeah, Ludovic. Yeah. and so again, it sounds Russian. Is that the type of therapy that they used on political prisoners in the old Soviet Union? And I'm sure they did. In the gulags, if you ever read Alexander Solzhenitsyn, they would be putting people into torture chambers, basically, and putting them all under all sorts of duress and getting them to admit their sins, so to speak. And this is what it reminded me a lot about 1984 as well, because that slang that they were using, that nadsat, that they were, these guys, Alex and these droogs, were talking to themselves in this slang. It reminded me of Newspeak in 1984, you know. And then there was a scene when Alex got re-educated, and he was now a showpiece, you know, and he was on a stage, you know, where this guy was threatening him with violence, you know, showing how, you know, Alex was just demonstrating how he changed. So this guy comes in and threatens him and pushes him to the floor and gets him to lick his boots. And that again reminds me of 1984, where it says, like, imagine a boot on the face of humanity forever. So I think Kubrick, you know, borrowed a few little things there from Orwell's 1984. I think a couple of things. So so yeah, he's in prison and he's a good boy, basically. And you know, as he's, you know, you can see he was going through the process in prison. He had to undress. He had to do all that stuff that they do prisoners, you know, strip them down, do a cavity search and all that type of stuff. And so he's, you know, he adapts to life in prison, and as it gets in with the priest and all the rest. When he hears about this therapy, and he says he'd be interested in volunteering for it. Now, again, it's unsure whether he's actually he really means this, or he's just trying to feign it. You know, he's just trying to. He obviously doesn't like being in prison, so he wants to get out. And maybe he's thinking, if I do this therapy, it probably won't work on him, and I'll be out of prison. So then the Minister for the Interior is invited to the prison. And this, at the moment, is still an experiment. The priest is very doubtful about it. He says it hasn't worked very well. The governor in charge of the prison is not in favor of it. He doesn't think it'll work. So we're still thinking about it. But obviously, it's being pushed through the government because they think this is the best way of dealing with criminals, is to re-educate them, to stop them thinking about violence and sexual rape and all this kind of stuff. And if you treat them nicely, you can control them better, you know. And, you know, again, we see a lot of that these days as well, you know, this kind of rehabilitation. And it's all experimentation, you know, and nobody knows where it's going to go. And this is obviously, this therapy is very dangerous type of brainwashing. So they put him through this whole scenario where they literally strap him into a chair, put a big thing over his head, like probes into his head, force his eyelids open and put drops into his eyes. And yeah, so before that, he the minister comes around and says, yeah, we got to change the whole prison system. It's all wrong. We're putting these criminals in and we're punishing them, but then when they go out, they go back out and do the same thing again. So we're trying to do something different here. And Alex sees this as his chance, and he kind of interrupts and says, yes, sir, you're correct, what you say. And the minister is very impressed with Alex. Says, I like this man. Yeah, so I think he'll do as a volunteer. We'll take this man. And of course, the main prison guard, he's not happy with this, and the governor isn't happy about it, but they have to let him go. So he's put into this psychiatric unit anyway, and where they conduct all these experiments on him. As I said, he's sitting down in a chair, strapped in. His eyelids are forced open, and they put drops in his eyes. And he's forced to watch gruesome kind of videos of people being beaten up, women being raped, and then it's all to the sound of Beethoven's Ninth. Again, it's interesting why they put Beethoven's Ninth in there. I wonder what Kubrick was up to there. Maybe you get your thoughts on that, guys. But that was, it had an operatic theme to the whole movie. Did you notice that? That music was always there in the background, and it seemed like it was kind of like an opera or a major kind of theater show, you know. And so eventually, you know, he starts feeling sick, and anytime he hears Beethoven's Ninth, he gets sick, and anytime he sees violence, he gets sick. So they reckon they've eventually kind of cured him, and now he's a showpiece. They put him up on stage, right? And then going back to the Billy Boy episode, remember when they were up on a stage? They found them in a disused theater where they were going to rape that girl. So there was a stage again, you know, all the world's a stage, and they put poor old Alex up on the stage, and they subject him, they humiliate him basically. With this guy comes in, treats him like shit, slaps him across the face, pushes him to the ground, puts his foot on his face, and says, "Lick my boots," which he does, you know. And then the next scene is a topless woman comes in again. You know, we brought it with colored hair, you know, and she walks up to him, and he really feels like, oh, I could jump on her and do whatever. But then he goes up to try and fondle her breasts, and he gets sick, you know. And did you notice as well the two actors, like the guy who was threatening them and the stripper? Well, it wasn't a stripper, but the topless woman. They all were on the stage and they were bowing to the audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they're all going, oh yeah, bravo, bravo, bravo. It's like a stage show. So they said, this is great news. Look, we've rehabilitated this man. We're going to let him out now into society and see how he goes. And the government are getting all these plaudits now because they've now at last found a solution to deal with this criminal element in society. And this is now how we can control them. And you know, this is what criminals will go through if they're caught. They won't be going to prison. They'll be going to this institution where they'll get this therapy, and they'll be new men when they come out. And that the term Clockwork Orange, by the way, I looked into that, what the meaning of that was. Orange as in like soft kind of on the outside, where, you know, Alex, when he's so-called rehabilitated, he's kind of soft and pliable, going, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And inside, he's like a clock, like a robot. You know, he doesn't question anything. He just goes, yes, sir, no, sir. And he won't question anything. And so anyway, he gets released back into society. So maybe that's a point where I'll turn it back, where we go after Alex gets released.
Yeah, just thinking there that you were saying about Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, that has nothing to do with the EU and Count Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi's, you know, the anthem over there, is it? Or,
it might. I'd have to look more into that. But there's some reason why he used that particular symphony, and I mean, it's a beautiful piece of music, and as you know, when they showed the scenes of Hitler and the National Socialists walking, and they had that classical music, it reminded me of Wagner and whatever, you know, and Beethoven obviously being German, and Hitler was a big fan of all those great German classical composers, you know. And Kubrick tends to throw all that in for, you know, it's interesting. I'd love to know what was the meaning behind all of that. But anyway.
Yeah, and then excuse me, Alex is then, he's meant to be re-educated, and he's sent on his way home. He is then, but Alex still thinks that, you know, he was just blagging it all the time. But anyway, he comes home, and you can see that his family, his mother and father, they're just reading the papers, and, you know, they're saying murderers released and rapists with this, you know, all this kind of, you know, stuff. And Alex comes back home, and he sees now that, like, he kind of says it in a funny way, you know, like, and why is there someone here, you know, in my chair or something like that. And they're after getting a new lodger now, because, like, they weren't, you know, expecting him probably ever to be released. But yeah, this chap Joe now, who's been paying rent, and he's kind of acting like he's the son, you know, like, oh, he's and he's, you know, like the son that they always kind of wanted but never had. And he steps up and he's saying, I've heard all about you and all that. and Alex goes to try and punch him, but then he realizes that he can't. So he's starting to realize that that whole experiment actually did do something to his head, you know. But he's then he just sits down, and you know, I think he feels like, you know, such an arsehole for trying it on, and now, you know, he's like the little weenie kid now or something, like, you know, because he starts feeling sick again, you know, from the violence and that, you know. But he was wondering, yeah, as well, why the cops took away all his personal belongings, you know, or why is his personal belongings gone? And his father says, well, the cops, you know, took all, you know, because it was all stolen merchandise. But I had to laugh at that. And then he was asking about a snake. Yeah, it was very weird the way he like slept with a snake. Like, but the snake, I think, whether it was true or not, I don't know. But he just said that, oh, the snake passed away and that, like, no, you know. But Alex then realizes that, you know, he can't do nothing here, you know. Can't even punch a man, can't do any, you know, there's nothing that he can do now. So Joe's like, as I said, the new son, and Alex just gets up and leaves, you know, because everyone thinks that he's acting as well. You know, like he thought that he was acting for a sec, but he wasn't. But now everyone thinks that he's acting. So that whole MK thing worked. But then he's walking along and he's carrying this little parcel, and must be, well, his belongings from the jail. But he bumps into that Irish chap that was there, and you were right about that Brizer. He was singing absolutely beautiful. Molly Maloney was. He was singing that beautifully. But the Irish chap comes up, and he's like, "Could you spare some cut on me, brother?" You know. But then Alex does give him something. But then the Irish fella recognizes him, and he's like, "I know you," and you know, so, and then he ends up, you know, leading them toward the kind of bridge, and you see all the other drunks, and they're all like, you know, under the bridge, and then they all start giving him a good hiding, and there's nothing he can do because he can't do any violence, like. So, like, you know, and then the police come over and break it up, but he soon realizes that it's two of his former, well, druids, his former friends, and he thinks that he's all right. But no, he's not all right at all, because they remember all the stuff that, you know, he done to them, and they end up putting him into the the paddy wagon, I suppose, as it would have been called back then. And you bring him out to this field, and it has, like, you know, there's like a bath there already, and it's full with water. And he starts beating the shite out of him, and then he puts his head in the water, and you know, they keep on going and going and going, like, you know what I mean. And then he's that's what happens there. And then he ends up back then with the fella that in the very first scene, when he's when they were raping his wife, he ends up back at that. Yeah, you just see the home sign, and he's crawling on the floor, and he's going in. And by this time, the fella's wife has died, and he has this big muscly fella, you know, he's doing weights, and you know, and then the doorbell rings, and then he says, you know, would have been the ex-husband, says, you know, oh, go and see who that is. I can't remember the chap's name now offhand, that was doing the weights, but yeah, carries him in, you know, and because he was after getting a very badly beaten up. And at first, Alex can recognize who this person is, but he was saying, "Oh, but we used to wear maskies in my day, you know, when we doing things. So hopefully he won't, you know, well, he won't recognize me, you know." That's so he thinks. But when he's in your man at first says, "Oh, I've seen you. You're that chap, you know, that was in the paper, and you know, this with this new treatment, as I think it was said before, the Ludovico treatment or whatever. He says, you're that one, aren't you? And he goes, yeah. He says, yeah, And then, like, he says, oh, take, give him a bath, and get him, like, cleaned up and that. And your man's on the phone, and he's talking to, like, his friends, and he says, we can do something with this and that. But Alex, he should have knew. Well, if he wanted to get away with it, but he starts singing in the rain, in the bath, like, what a glorious day. And your man now is in a wheelchair, and he just recognizes that voice straight away. And it was a bit of a funny shot, the way, like, the camera's underneath and the face and the movements that he was pulling. It looked a bit fucking silly, it did, but but he now recognizes who he is. And then Alex then comes out, and there's food there, there's wine, which we later on find out must have contained a lot of sedatives in it or something, and he's drinking and drinking. But yeah, the chap, he must be some strong chap, because he carries him in the wheelchair. The fella that was doing weights, he carries him in, and he walks down a few steps, and then more few steps, and he puts him on, the fella in the wheelchair, on the ground, like, and they're both sitting beside him, and he's like, he food all right. You know what I mean? Try the wine. He's like, and yeah, man, Alex is like saying, well, would you, are you not gonna have some yourself? And he's like, no, and then they're just talking, and he's eating, and then he's drinking and drinking, and then your man's friends do come over, because he obviously then told them who he really was, and he then says to your one, there's a woman that comes over, and he says to her that, oh yeah, I was tortured, or and he was telling her all that happened, and he was saying about going back to Beethoven's symphony, and he says, yeah, anytime I hear that, it makes me sick. I feel like killing myself. I just want to do myself in, he says. And then that's when, he's then brought off, because he just collapses, he does, when he's sitting down, and his face, I think he was eating spaghetti. No one else was eating anything, but he was eating spaghetti, and that's why your man was saying, have more wine, because obviously there was, I don't know, sleeping tablets or whatever, and but he ends up falling asleep, and then your man is like, when he's in this place where there's a pool table, and he has these speakers on it, and he's blaring the Ninth Symphony up. And Alex can't, he ends up waking up, and he's banging on the door, and he wants to get out, and he's going mad, he is. And then he ends up jumping out the window, because he was saying, like, I can either go through this, or, what'll it be, 1 second of pain or something, and he just jumps out the window. Meanwhile, your man downstairs is loving this, because he's getting his own back. And but Alex does survive, the fall in the end, and he ends up in hospital. So I'll throw it back then.
All right, thanks for that, Irish Fenian. I just missed a few minutes. Did you guys mention his being arrested by the police, being brought out, and half drowned?
Yeah.
Okay, that's grand. So yeah, I'll just make a few points, and then I'll pass it on to Brizer. The rehabilitation, I've always wondered about that, because every day we see some despicable crime being committed, perhaps a murder, some horrible deed. And each and every time we find out that the perpetrator had, a rap sheet as long as your arm. And you start thinking the system doesn't work. And then you start thinking maybe the system's not supposed to work. And I've often thought about, the idea of the death penalty. Why did they abolish it? And I think it's because it costs the state a lot. The idea of them showing their true power. It's better for them to have this softer power. To have the hard power hidden, like a card up their sleeve. So the idea that the death penalty is gone, I often think, is to try and get rid of the idea of from the citizenship that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They want to get rid of that. They want to keep the citizenry passive. And we hear cases. There was one there a few weeks ago. I came across it on Twitter. Some woman in America. She was high on drugs and she killed her infant. And she was in a court, and the judge more or less, gave her a dressing down, telling her she was reckless. She was foolish. She shouldn't be going out partying all the time, and she wasn't going to go to prison for killing her child. The judge just said, "You'll have to stay in. Don't go out to parties anymore and stay off the drugs." And you see things like this, and you say, "What the hell is going on?" But yeah, the idea of the two coppers picking him up, like they weren't as violent as Alex back in the day, but they were still violent people. And it turns out they found their calling in the police force. And I think Kubrick is, he's sending us a subtle little message there, or not so subtle, that, the uniform, a lot of psychopaths and very, very violent thugs are attracted to the uniform and the power that the uniform provides for them. And they can get away with a lot, by wearing that uniform. So yeah, the conditioning for Alex, you lads mentioned, he's on a stage, he's more or less the laughing stock, he's the guinea pig. The audience is having a field day watching him, and they're watching his not reacting to state violence. He gets slapped, he gets hit, and he won't react. He's asked to lick the sole of a shoe, and he does so. And this is the perfect citizen for the state. A citizen that can be pushed around, that doesn't ask questions, a person who's at the whim of power. The perfect citizen. Civilized, over-civilized into sheepishness. So, when I was watching this, I was thinking of all those cases where we hear there's an act of terrorism in Europe somewhere, and, within a couple of hours, the parents, you often wonder, is it authentic? Is it just a kind of psyops? But you have the parents coming out and saying, "Don't look back in anger." These are the citizens that tyrannies want. They don't want people thinking outside the box. They want these sheeple. So yeah, Alex has been replaced. He gets out. The program is a success. He gets out, he goes back home, and he finds out he's been replaced. There's some sort of changeling there, a lodger. And it's an incredible scene. The father is impotent, absolutely impotent. He's sitting in an armchair, and this lodger, Joe, I think was his name, he's sitting with the father's wife, and he's kind of canoodling on the couch with her in a way. And when she gets upset, he starts, putting his arm around her and holding her hand, pressing her hand, playing with her fingers. It's a very strange scene. The family is I would say this family was never very strong, but now it has been decimated. And Alex gets his marching orders. He has to leave because the lodger, he's paid a month in advance. And as soon as Alex leaves, the mother is she's beside herself with grief. And you see the lodger comforting her. And then the father comes over and gets down on his knees, and he's also joining in with the embrace. And the lodger, he's stroking the mother, and he's also stroking the father. I think he's got his hand on his bald head, and he's stroking the father's bald head. So yeah, it's a very funny scene. But I think, guys, we're coming towards the end. Unless there's something else you want to ask, I'll pass it on to Brizer. Any more points you want to make? Then I'll pass it on to Irish Fenian. Meanwhile, if anyone in the live chat wants to ask Brizer or Irish Fenian a question, or just a general question, post it, and we'll address it. So go ahead, Brizer.
Yeah, I think the scene when he's released from prison is very interesting, because Alex, he thinks, yeah, he's kind of been changed, but he's not really. He thinks he's back to the old world again. Comes back home expecting to have a warm welcome, dinner on the table, all the rest of it, and as I said, finds this interloper sitting on the couch called Joe, who's now the new lodger in the house because Alex has been gone and they need the rent and all the rest of it, And as you said, Btwixt, Joe is very, very fond of the mother, a bit too fond of the mother, I think, putting arms around her and comforting her. And again, the father is just this stupid, impotent man sitting there, just kind of, oh, well, son, it's like that, you know what I mean? You were away and he paid a month in advance. So there you go. And then Joe starts slagging off Alex, calling him a murderer and blah, blah, blah. And, what you put your parents through and all the rest of it, you should be ashamed of yourself. And of course, Alex gets angry and wants to hit him. But then the conditioning sets in and Alex breaks down crying and says, look at him now, he's just a bloody wimp, And so he has to leave. Alex says, well, I have to go. And of course, he's got nothing except that bag of clothes that he got from the prison and maybe a few pounds in his pocket. And so he said he's walking down by the river and he comes across the old homeless man again, the Irish lad, and who recognizes him and calls him out, and Alex tries to get away from it. And of course, he goes under this bridge where all his homeless mates, all the other homeless buddies are all there. And they all attack him and try and get him on the ground, and they're trying to beat him up. And then two constables come along. And of course, there are these two ex-droogs, Now, I was wondering, how the hell did they join the cops? What happened in the meantime while Alex was in prison? How did they join up? I thought that was a strange one, So did they get a form of conditioning as well, or did they just think, well, crime doesn't really pay, so join the cops and be a different type of criminal, And when you look at the cops these days, I think there's certainly a criminal element in there, without a doubt. They're up to no good. And so this is the progressive form of government, Let's brainwash the prisoners and let's recruit criminals into the police force. There was an interesting quote that the prison chaplain came out with. He says, goodness is something to be chosen. When a man cannot choose, he ceases to be a man. And I think that was a key point he made there, because if you choose to be violent and kill people, well, you're going to get, you're going to get it back. Karma is a bitch, baby, and you've made that choice. And we all have a choice to be a complete freaking lunatic or psychopath, or we can be decent people, one or the other. And Alex chose to be an evil bastard who, raped women, kicked the shit out of homeless people, and didn't really care. And so he kind of got his due deserts, so to speak. He was put into prison, which wasn't very nice. And then he went through all that brainwashing crap as well. And now he's come out thinking that he might be a changed man. And he's realizing now that he can't fight back. The conditioning is so deep that hasn't got any strength to fight back. He breaks down and cries, and he sees a violent situation. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And so the two boys, the two droogs, now cops, bring him off to this remote place, stick his head into a tank of water and kick the shit out of him, basically. Just leave him there. And it just so happens that where that happened, the house where they broke into, where the writer and his wife, at the beginning of the film, where they got in and beat them up and raped, they raped the woman. He knocks on the door, and again, it's like, who would that be at this hour of night, And instead of the wife, it's this big bodybuilder. I thought that was interesting. And you say again, Btwixt, that whole scene with Alex and his parole officer was very gay. And I thought this was another very gay kind of scene because this bodybuilder looked gay. Like, why would this guy be living with a writer, you know? And then you're thinking, well, where was the wife? So the bodybuilder anyway opens the door. Alex falls through the door. He picks him up, brings him down. He says, "Oh, help, help, help. I'm in trouble." And Alex, is Alexander, is that his name? Is the name of the writer. He's obviously a subversive writer, isn't he?
I think it's Mr. Alex, is it? Let's see. Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, Alexander, yeah. And says, "Oh, what happened to you? Oh, police brutality and all this." And he says, "Oh, look." And so he calls up his friend. He doesn't recognize Alex. And Alex is saying this, you know, as he's narrating the film. He didn't recognize him because on the night in question, they had masks on. So they didn't recognize him initially. Says, "Oh, we could use this man. This is a good example of police brutality in this dystopian, you know, totalitarian state." So he's obviously a part of a organization, an underground organization, who were writing magazines and stuff to kind of get out there to the people that were living in this brutal totalitarian regime. And this is what they're doing to people. And they were going to use Alex as an example. But then Alex goes, they say, "Okay, Alex, you're badly hurt and you're wet. Go have a bath there now and clean up and wash up, and we can have food afterwards and we'll talk then." But of course, while he's in the bath, he's singing in the rain. And again, that was an interesting song, why they chose that one. "I'm singing in the rain," you know. It was Gene Kelly who did that one back in the 50s or something, and very popular tune. And so he's in the bath and he was singing the song, and Mr. Alexander realizes who it is because he remembered while they were raping the wife, he was singing that song. And so he says, "Right, I want revenge now on this man." But he said, "Right, we can use him." And so Alex tells his story. So they bring him down. He's at the dinner table. He's got a nice meal of spaghetti or whatever, bottle of wine. And so Alex opens up and tells him like what happened and whatever, and how he loved Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And so they drug him anyway with the wine, and he's next thing he wakes up, he's in a bedroom in the same house, and he doesn't know where he is. And then the next minute he hears Beethoven's Symphony, and that kind of sets him off, like, because this is a piece of music that he absolutely adored, and now he can't stand it, and it's like a form of torture. And he's hammering on the floor, switch it off, turn it off, you know. And of course, he's putting it up louder and louder. And Alex then he says, "Right, I'm out. I'm going to snuff myself." He says, "I'm going to snuff myself," and jumps out the window. And you think, you know, a fall like that, it seemed like a big fall, that would be it. But incredibly, he survived and then ends up in the hospital. And obviously, when he was in the hospital, he's all up in bandages and all the whole thing, and they let him recuperate. And they obviously did something in the hospital, because then a nurse comes in and does these psychiatric tests on him, and he's back to the way he used to be. You know, they ask him questions, and he you know, what would you do in this scenario? And he says, "I'd shove it up his arse." Or "I'd do," you know, he was getting back to his violent ways instead of being the passive man that he was before this, you know. And then they said, "Oh, we got a very special visitor for you." And it was the Minister of Interior comes in and says, "We want to be your friends." And he's actually feeding Alex, because Alex can't feed himself because he's all in bandages. So he starts putting the food in his mouth, and Alex was just opening his mouth, you know. And the guy was just dropping the food into his mouth. And he says, "You know, we tried to do what we could to help you. We were always here to help you. But fortunately, it didn't work, you know, and we've done away with that now. But we can now use you as, you know, someone who can help us, because the general elections are coming up, and we need a good news story, and it pretty much ends that Alex is back where he was initially, and he says, "I guess I was cured," which is the last line of the movie. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So he kind of went full circle, didn't he? He just went from being a bad guy, then being brainwashed into being a good guy, but not really knowing what was going on. And then they kind of unbrainwash him again, and now he's back to where he is, So kind of, it just kind of begs the question, like, what is the best way to kind of treat criminals? Or, you were talking about the death penalty, for example, Btwixt. That was seen as a very kind of cruel form of punishment. And I can agree with it in many circumstances. But again, there's always that kind of situation where innocent people can be pulled into that system, and they can be executed, and they can be totally innocent. So it's a fine line, that one,
Yeah, but just to say, Brizer, that we don't have the death penalty in most countries now, and you have cases where someone goes out and murders someone, they go into prison, they get out a few years later, they go out and they murder someone else, and these are innocent people too. So,
I know, yeah.
It cuts both ways. But anyway, just to say, Brizer, you were talking about the ending there, and I have a different perspective of the ending to what you've disclosed there. My impression was that at the very end, Alex died. That was my impression.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking that the Minister for the Interior, the hospital food, he was poisoning him. He'd been used for the photo op. Alex had been used for the photo op. And as soon as the photo op had finished, he was then poisoned because he's no longer useful.
That's a good point. Good point, yeah.
This is what I thought. I just before I bring Irish Fenian in, I'll give you a quote here from the script. This is from Mr. Alexander, because the minister he tells Alex that, oh, that old man, that old writer, we got rid of him. We got rid of him, and the writer was, he believed in the idea of liberty, which goes completely against the tyrannical government. And this is what the writer, Mr. Alexander, what he said. He was speaking on the phone, and he was kind of looking over his shoulder, and he was saying this in kind of whispers on the phone. He says, "I tell you, sir, they have turned this young man into something other than a human being. He has no power of choice anymore. He's committed to socially acceptable acts, a little machine capable only of good." Yeah, just mute yourself there, Brizer, please.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. He could be the most potent weapon imaginable to ensure that the government is not returned at the next election. The government's great boast, as you know, sir, is the way they have dealt with crime in the last few months. Recruiting brutal young roughs into the police, proposing debilitation and will-sapping techniques of conditioning. Oh, we've seen it all before in other countries, the thin edge of the wedge. Before we know where we are, we shall have the full apparatus of totalitarianism. This young boy is a living witness to these diabolical proposals. The people, the common people, must know, must see. There are rare traditions of liberty to defend. The tradition of liberty means all. The common people will let it go. Oh yes, they will sell liberty for a quieter life. That is why they must be led, sir, driven, pushed. Thank you very much, sir. He'll be here, unquote. So yeah, I thought that was actually a decent enough quote. And when he says the common people will let liberty go for a quiet life, I couldn't help but think once again of the incredible Scamdemic, where common sense seemed to go out the window and people just put up and shut up with the most heinous crimes carried out by governments all over the world. So I'll pass it on to Irish Fenian. Go ahead.
Well, I suppose, yeah, that's more or less the ending there. But yeah, I was surprised that that jump when he went out the window didn't kill him. But maybe, as you said, like, yeah, that minister for Interior was trying to kill him at the end, because yeah, you could see all the headlines. You could see, oh, government in trouble, minister, wanted for crimes. This, you could see all that. But yeah, after while he was all bandaged up there, and when he was coming around, you could see the doctor and the nurse were going at it, and but you couldn't see it, but they came out, and you just see her, like, just to pull up her hips and all that. But he wakes up, he does, and yeah, you see then the minister for Interior. Then he then comes in, and it's very weird looking. Like, he's like a little child, and but he keeps opening his mouth, for every little piece. And you know, I was thinking there, like, yeah, like, and then you see a lot of paparazzi there, just coming in, like all the cameras, and so that was like, he was just being used there. Whether he was being poisoned, I'm not sure, and but he was being used there, and it was mad the way, like, after the government, fecked up, like, that the establishment now needs him. You know what I mean? They need him to get the headlines going, and he was like holding the minister's hand, shaking his hand and all that kind of way, and so he was doing what he was doing. Whether he was poisoned, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, he probably was. But I kind of thought, though, at the ending, because you kind of see him with there's people around him, and or maybe it's kind of a dream, kind of a sequence thing, but he was there with a naked woman, and he had no problem, doing anything. He was like, I think, it was needed, like that bang on the head from the fall probably undone all that, that was brainwashed into his head. That's another, I don't know, could be another, yeah, way of looking at things. But I suppose, well, there's not much we left to say, but I'll say, like, with the whole MK Ultra thing, I think that, like, they have it down to a T, but not in the way that is portrayed in the film. I think the way they do it now is just they scare the bejesus out of you with ads, and and especially during the scamdemic, what I mean, like 24/7, what I mean, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, like, I mean, this kind of stuff really does, scare the feck out of people. And you see ads now that I've noticed, and it's all about, oh, and they talk about it so, benign, like, oh, that was a great funeral today, wasn't it? Oh yeah, it was. Have you thought about sorting over now? And no, I haven't. He says, oh, you should get on to, and it's always about cremation. It's never about, like, having a proper funeral. And it's always like, yeah, we should go with so and so, and they're great at it, and all this kind of way. And it's always white people. It's never like, the others, shall we say. It's always white people, you know what I mean, that are in these ads. So that's like, I feel that, like, if you're going to talk about the whole MK thing, yeah, that does work, but it has to work over a long time. And as we've seen over the past few years, and they're even bringing it up again, about, the whole spoof thing. And because I was wondering, because I went out one of the days, and I was seeing people with masks on again, and I'm saying, oh, what's going on here? And then I only found out that, I don't know, some hospital or something, has a lot of COVID patients or something like that, I don't know. And straight away, people are all getting scared again. In relation to the death penalty, yeah, there is a lot of scumbags in the world, a lot of rapists, a lot of pedos. Yeah, I wouldn't have any sympathy for them. But what I would think about, though, is that if you were a threat to the state and the establishment, that they'd easily make up false charges, and then they'd have you hanged, and then, like, you be an innocent man. So I wouldn't trust it with any government, to be honest with you. you know, that'd be my view on it now, you know. But as I said, there is a lot of scumbags out there that would deserve that. But as I said, though, you could be the one though that they'll do something on, or you know, they'll put something on you, and then you'll be on the end of the rope. But there is some people in this world that should be dancing on the end of a rope. But as I said, that'd be my view on that. And coming back to Brizer's thing about karma, karma always gets you in the end. So, you know, that's why I try and live a good lifestyle. And if I'm harming anyone, I'm harming myself. So, like, karma will get you in the end. And I think I'll leave it there, I suppose, for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, in regarding the death penalty, you know, these things can be used for good or they can be used for bad. We'll go to your final, I suppose, your final rating for the film. I should say that the final scene where the minister is feeding Alex. When I was looking at this, the way Alex opens his mouth, he opens it really, really wide. And he looks like a chick in a nest,
Yeah.
being fed by the parents.
Mhm.
He looks like he's completely dependent on the minister, on the state. And as Brizer said, he can't feed himself. The state must feed him. So I'll pass it on. Brizer, final
just
thoughts.
like
Say anything you want, and then just give your final score for the film.
Yeah,
I give it
just-
a 7. Yeah.
Yeah, just like when he was willing to be strapped into a chair and be injected with all sorts of crap and have drops put into his eyes, he was willing to do it, thinking that if he submits and bows to whatever system, he will get out of it. And it doesn't work that way, You got to find your own way out, I agree, like Irish Fenian said, like he was being used here. So Mr. Alexander thought we can use this man to show how the government are bringing in a police state and whatever, totalitarianism and beating up innocent people, all the rest. Well, not innocent, but you know what I mean, just beating up people just for the fun of it, which is what Alex was doing beforehand, right? And but then, of course, Mr. Alexander found out that it was Alex and his buddies and his droogs who kicked the shit out of him, put him into a wheelchair and killed his wife. We found out, okay, she didn't die immediately, but she allegedly died of some pneumonia or whatever, right? And then the government minister comes in and then tries to use him again. And again, he, as you said, opened his mouth, got the food in and whatever. And this is what I see happening right now. People will do whatever it takes to take the government shilling or whoever's bringing them nicest gifts, and we'll just go along with them instead of just doing your own thing and getting on with your own life and being the best version of yourself and not falling for this kind of nonsense. Because there's always going to be someone in there who's going to just lead you astray, no matter what way, whether it's a government or an institution or even, I see it in the alternative media. A lot of these so-called gurus leading people astray. And I could mention a few of them here, but I won't do it. But I think, there's a few of them we could mention who will just say, this is the way it is, and this is how we fight back. And a lot of these people end up getting into trouble who do that, and it's just feeding into the whole system, the whole beast system. And the only way out of it, as far as I'm concerned, is you got to find your own way in this life. And you were put here for that reason. And if you succumb to either side, you're going to get hurt. And as I said, as that priest said, if you don't have a freedom to choice, you're not a man anymore. So I enjoyed this film. It's not an easy watch. It's dark. It's disturbing. it's a strange dialogue in the whole thing, you know, with that slang language that they use. It's hard to kind of figure out what they're actually saying. But and it might need a couple of watches to kind of really get into it. I have to say, watching it again just this morning, a lot of things just came to me that I didn't see before, and I think, you know, watching it again a couple of more times, there's more things will pop out. But yeah, I'll give it an 8 because I think the acting was great. I think Malcolm McDowell did a great job in it, and the whole atmospheric kind of side of it all. It was dark. It is in an awful kind of society that nobody really wants to live in, and I couldn't make up my mind whether it was a police state or a complete state of chaos. It was hard to kind of make out what where we were on this, but you know, when we look where we are now, people are becoming very disillusioned with politics, and we're going to get more people kind of saying, well, maybe this is the way we should do it, and that's the way we should do it. And a lot of people, these people don't have a clue really. They're full of ideas, but they're not backing it up with anything, you know. So we got to be careful where we go from here and not fall for the next thing, whatever it is. We got to look at this stuff, question it, and realize within ourselves who we are and how we can deal with this. And I think if we do that, I think we can get through it. But the film that was made back in the early 70s, you know, again, Kubrick has a habit of doing this. He gives us an idea what might be happening in the future, and there's a lot of things in that movie which we're kind of seeing now. So yeah, so I enjoyed it. I'll give it an 8 out of 10, and thanks for inviting me on for this one.
Thanks for coming on, Brizer. So I'll pass it on now to Irish Fenian. What would you give it out of 10?
Oh, I think I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well. You know, it was a very good film. I hadn't seen, as I said, it got over 20 years. And the last time I looked at it, you know, like with a few lads, it was like one of them funny, like it was like a funny film. It was, but watch it, and you know, you know the way you only gave me, you sent me a thing last night. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this tomorrow and all, and I only actually watched it a little earlier, so you know I might have missed out on a lot of things, but yeah, no, it was very good. It was very, very dark though. Yeah, and as Brizer said before, it's not the type of film to be, you know, if you have young kids or anything like that. I think you would want to be, you know, showing them that. Do you know, I had to laugh. I was coming back there the other day, and because do you know the way that there's these incels now, and you have all that, you know, they be playing with their Star Wars things and all that kind of way. But they say, oh no, once it's for over 18s, you know, it's it's not for kids and all that. And I seen there was a couple of kids just, you know, a couple of doors up from me, and they were making they had one of them Chucky dolls, you know, the good guys. And whenever he was saying, I think he was saying, I'm a good guy, you know, when he pushed it out. But it was like you kind of putting on the show for, you know, me and my friend, you know. And then like they went to the garden, and they put it on again, and I says, oh, is that a good guy, is it? I said, oh well, you want to be careful with him when you're asleep at night, I said. And then the little girl shouts down, like, you know, oh, we won't sleep tonight and all that. And I'm saying, well, like, if these dolls are for over 18s, what are children doing with them? And they obviously seen the film, you know. Well, I mean, I seen the film when I was younger as well. But I just thought that was funny the other day. But yeah, back to the film. Yeah, like I totally see it in a different view now, you know. It's not the same as like when I watched it years ago, or well, I wouldn't have even watched it properly years ago, you know. It was one of them films years ago. But yeah, as I said, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. I'd say, yeah. There's a lot of good But a lot of things in it, like the sound when like there's when they're doing the scenes, all the classical music playing over it, it kind of like nearly throws you off. It does. It's like, it's a bit weird in that sense, and yeah, it's just it's one of them films that like it really catches you, like, but it's it really is mad though, like, like watching it again, for the for the second time only. But yeah, so I'll throw it out to Betwixt. That's me done, I suppose.
All right, thanks, Irish Fenian. Links to the lads, well, in the case of Brizer, it'll be his Twitter, and in the case of Irish Fenian, his YouTube channel. They will be in the description of this video. Follow Brizer on Twitter. He puts out good tweets, very good memes. Sometimes you don't see him for perhaps a week on Twitter, and then he sends about 100 memes out in 5 minutes. That's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah. When I get that mood on me, I just go mad,
yeah. It's
and,
pretty
then,
cool.
and then I just sit back and just watch the reactions,
Yeah. It'd be like over on Bitchute anyway. If anyone cares to check it out, we got some absolute head cases in the comment section, and they didn't like the fact that we cast out on the moon landings. But anyway, we won't get into it now. But if anyone is interested, Irish Fenian's YouTube channel, check that out as well. There's some good movie reviews over there. I think I did some of them with him. Brizer joined us for Lord of the Flies, so that's there on Irish Fenian's YouTube channel. Guys, I will leave you. I'm gonna read you these chilling words, very, very chilling words, and that will be the end of the stream. Make sure you like it. Make sure you share the stream around. And here are these few chilling words, guys. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling. I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds, so dark up above. The sun's in my heart, and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with your rain, I've got a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing in the rain.